question.
Wait, she's wanting to ask me a question.
Yeah, but we're still.
Yeah, Billy, let the women speak. Stop
Yeah.
mansplaining.
Get over the limit, man.
We watch the
Okay.
Marvels. Women can talk now.
Thank you.
Yeah, facts.
Jeez.
Sorry.
It's all right. Go
Anyway.
ahead, Maji.
So you've actually, I know you've read my novel and stuff.
Yes.
One of the things I've been really struggling with is because I got to restructure it. How do you write changes of point of views between different groups in the same novel?
Usually I pick one and I will go through that with a scene. And Kahuna, I think, read at least part of my book. He sort of knows how. Who else is reading it?
I read your first
I
book,
am.
and I own your
Okay.
second one.
I read Transmutation Texas.
I'm
Cool,
halfway
so
through Six Gun
Okay,
Shiva.
cool. Okay, so usually what I do is I actually use a series of tildes and actually put what is called a chapter break, and I train my readers to look for those tildes. That means I'm changing point of view. I also have been really careful in when I'm doing when I'm having because I have a bunch of people in the later books. There's like sometimes 5-10 people in a group talking, so it's really hard to write those scenes. So what I usually end up doing is I'll put it from one person's perspective. They are the ones listening, and I'll talk about how they heard this or they looked at that. And I put the tildes in before I switch the point of view. So that way it shows the reader that after a while they get to where they're used to looking at there's a chapter break. There's probably a different point of view. And there's usually a character. And I do use narrator sometimes because it's really hard if you're doing a scene with a group of people where they're traveling. I usually go with sometimes an omniscient viewpoint, especially if there's a battle. Sometimes it's really tough to do battle unless you have omniscience. So I always use the tildes. I use the 5 tilde chapter break or a flourish if you have my format actually pulls a flourish in when I do that. And that shows that we're changing point of view. And then I do it just from that point of view. Like I'll do scenes where Rose is the only one really thinking about it. But then if you're doing that, that's the only person in that scene who has that awareness of what's going on. She may not know what the watcher's thinking. She won't be able to tell unless she actually sees his face or looks at something. So it's much more limited, but it gives us a whole different perspective. And so that's what I've learned to do from my characters because I do switch points of view. I switch points of view several times throughout the book. Famously,
first book is pretty. It's not that common, but it does happen a few times.
Yeah. It becomes more common as we go further in the story because we have more characters coming in and we have different groups that are going to be doing things. And so far, nobody has ever. I've never had an editor or anyone else tell me, "Oh, you can't do that." And it's because I make sure that the reader knows I'm changing point of view. And I think that's where most people have a problem is they don't know why there's suddenly somebody else thinking or somebody talking. And so I've tried to be really careful about that. And so far, I haven't gotten any negative feedback. I'm sure somebody will give me some at some point that will be like, oh, I couldn't understand or I wasn't able to see it. But right now, we've had several readers, that have given me really deep feedback. And so far, are you guys having any trouble with the point of view switches?
Not at all. I was gonna say it's really clear cut.
I haven't gotten the book two yet, but
point of view it is for
clear.
the scene.
Cool.
I'm on book with introduction of Evangelo and everything, and
dude, awesome.
And that's when I was like really noticing it because you're mostly stuck with a watcher for the first book. And I think it's a little bit of Rose. But then once you get to the second book and the pacing picks up, it starts with a lot of action. And you kind of get, the world now. The first book is definitely world building, and so it's a little more slow paced. But the second book picks that right up, and you know what's going on. But I never had a problem knowing whose point of view I was.
Each character voice is really distinct also.
You're very good at building the scenes.
Yeah. Thank you.
And having the characters there. So that's, fundamental.
Yeah, well, actually both Transmutation Texas and Six Gun Shiva were the same book to begin with, and because I had to make the break there because it was so long.
Yeah, it's pretty long. Lots of words, but it's worth it.
So that's why the break occurs, and if you've read it, you'll know why the break occurs there. Sort of a Stuart Little ending a little bit, but it switches over pretty quick, and then we get in, and once you get through with Six Gun Shiva, you've got your main cast all together, and they're ready to go. So I hope it's okay. So far, I've had people that have read the entire 6 books and they're still cool with it going on. And I'm hearing other people talking about other series, and people are like, I hate cliffhangers. I'm like, don't read my series, please. Because don't read it, because every book ends with it going to this one.
Especially with a longer series, it's an inevitable thing that's going to happen. I think people don't like when it's like a cliffhanger and then it's like, hey, it's going to be a minimum of 4 to 8 years for the next book, or God forbid,
never
12 years.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why I think a couple of weeks ago you said you release a group at a time, right?
Yeah. I usually do that. In fact, Trail of Travail is actually a break for me in that I had been working on it and I was like, I need to go ahead and get this out. And for whatever reason, I was just like, you know what, I'm going to release it. And since I had it down, but I'm already 2/3 of the way through the next book. So I'd already been working on it. So I always had them back to back to back. But it's pretty intense, the level of writing that it takes and the editing. And we've got so many great editors out there. Golly, I mean, you got Daniel, you've got everybody out here. We've got so many good editors. Stephen Black's my editor. He actually picked me up. I wasn't the other way around. I can't begin to tell you how that worked. He was like, he read it. He was like, I want to do it. And I was like, oh my gosh, are you sure? And he was like, yeah. And we threw him in there on it. But I was like, okay, if you're able to handle the space, we'll do it. But it's so intense and it does cost money. I've got to do the next fundraiser because I've got to be able to raise the money to pay the next editor. And so by Christmas, I hope.
Oh, we lose you.
By Christmas.
Snow, blink once if you're in trouble.
Oh, no.
Oh, shoot. Anyway.
Well, she does like the cliffhangers, doesn't she?
Yeah, right?
The hedge is pissed. He's like, what happened? What happened next?
I'm like, there's two reviews. But yeah, but also I know for a fact that Amazon does squelch some of the reviews. I have reviews on books that they never show up. And I'm not sure why.
I've noticed that too. I noticed that years ago, actually, when I was doing a lot of reviews.
Yeah, there's a lot of my reviews that disappear. And I'm not sure why that happens. They don't, I've got a series of, I've probably got, 30 or 40 reviews now, but they don't count them all together. So even though I've gone over the amount, I still don't hit the algo. So yeah, I love you guys. I got to go answer my phone, but I love you. And bye, blah, blah, blah. That's
all right. Love you, Queen. Have a good night.
Mary Snow.
Yes, you're awesome.
Butcher the Damned. It's on Amazon. Got a whole series.
Are you ready for a mutant to wander the waste?
Oh, yeah, and that link is in the description below.
With a midget redhead in a dress. Read Watcher of the Damned.